All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate all of our EIA volunteers, all the hard work that you do to help push the association forward. We really appreciate. Before we get started, I do have a couple of reminders. As always, we're accepting posts for our Educators in Action blog. We're always looking for writers to respond to our suggested topics, which are on our webpage. We're also looking for anything related to distance learning, and all of those blog submissions can be sent to me. Like today's virtual discussion, if you are interested in facilitating one, please feel free to reach out with a topic, title, time frame that works for you, and we can get that set up. Our next virtual discussion is going to be held on October 9th from 3 to 4 p.m. And then please remember to mute yourself so we don't have any background noise. And then without further ado, we're really grateful to have Michael Connett, ACTE's Senior Director of Outreach and Partner Development, and Dr. Gary Mears, Vice President of Education at Max Knowledge, here to share some information on ACTE's CTE Learn programs.
Thank you, Dominique. That was a great introduction, and welcome everyone. It's so great to get to see everyone. As I was chatting with Harry before everyone arrived, that it's nice to just have the face and the personal time, even though we're not in person together. It's really great to see everyone. So I wanted to just begin and let you know that in full disclosure, that today is as much about me learning from you as I think you will learn from the things that Dr. Mears and I are going to share. But before we do, I wanted to just ask how many of you, if you could open up your chat window and just let me know yes or no, if you are familiar with CTE Learn, ACTE's online professional development portal. And so getting a lot of yeses, that's great. And don't be shy if you're not, just let me know. I want to know how deep I should go into a little bit of background. And not seeing any no's, so that's good. So what I'd like to talk to you about today and hear from you about are developing courses that are relevant and necessary right now for our teaching staff, for our administrators, many of you, and for our career and guidance professionals, so school counselors who are working to help guide career development. And we're going to talk a little bit about the process in creating courses to hopefully demystify some of that process for you, but then also talk to you about the strategy going forward and hopefully working with some of you and or some of your colleagues to develop additional courses for CTE Learn. So let me just take care of a little bit of housekeeping about CTE Learn for you first. We are partnered with a publisher, a really terrific company that we've had a wonderful relationship with now for just a little over, I guess almost a year and a half now, called Max Knowledge. Max Knowledge is a private company that had been in the business of career education for about 20 years, but the principles behind it have been involved longer than that. In just a moment, I'm going to reintroduce my colleague here, Dr. Gary Mears. But for those of you who have maybe been associated with ACTE for some time, you might recall that Dr. Mears served as our president back in the early aughts, I believe. And Gary, correct me if I'm wrong. So he has been a long-standing partner, friend, and advocate for CTE. And he'll give you a little bit more about his bio. But at Max Knowledge, their goal is to support the professional development of all of us, to be the best that we can and to impact student achievement as best as we can. And how they do that is by the curation, development, and the collection of expertise in the creation of online professional development courses. So if you've not yet seen a course, would be more than happy to ask our friend Gary to get you a demo so that you can get in to see one of the courses. I am prepared to sort of walk you through one here to give you a sense of what the elements are, but I don't want to spend time doing that if most of you have been through it, or if you prefer just to cut to the chase and talk about what it means to develop courses. But at the end of the day, that course development process is built out of strong expertise that you have in your career, in the role that you have in CTE. And this is a way not simply to pay it forward in helping others to achieve improvement and enhance their own professional skills, but also to get involved in a revenue generating opportunity. And Gary will talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. So I'm going to pause before we start diving into the course development process and just ask everyone once again, open up your chat window if you don't have it still open. And if you wouldn't mind, just share with me, share with the group, one or two words that talk about your CTE area of interest. If you were an ag educator coming up, or you've been in administration, or perhaps career counseling, go ahead and just give me one or two words. Let us know the fields of expertise that are here today with us. So I'll let you go ahead and do that. While you're typing, I'm going to just again reintroduce Gary and ask him to say a few words about Max Knowledge and his role. I also wanted to, and completely forgot to, acknowledge my colleagues from ACT joining me today. In addition to Dominique, Stephen DeWitt, our Deputy Executive Director. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Michael. Thanks.
Yay. And Megan, I think I saw you earlier. You've gone off my screen, but I think I saw you, so say hello. Maybe she left me. All right, and thank you for putting those in. I appreciate it. It's a real breadth of expertise here. And so, Gary, if you don't mind, I'm just going to turn it over to you for some opening comments, and then we'll get underway.
Well, thank you, Michael, and also welcome everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and it's an exciting opportunity to have access to this many diverse members of, excuse me, I may catch a little background noise. I apologize for that. We're trying to get a roof. We lost a roof as a result of a storm. Trying to get a roof. I just like having a dry house. You can all understand that, hopefully. And I think a roof contributes greatly to keeping that house dry. So my crew's working hard trying to throw shingles down, get us dry by nightfall. That being said, it's a great opportunity to be with you, the diversity of the disciplines, which is really key for continuing to generate course content. My background was I served in a variety of roles, starting with membership on various committees in ACTE, and then was a vice president, and then ultimately served as president. So I had and then I've continued to serve as a volunteer in a variety of capacities with ACT for forever, seems like. And in the meantime, I taught junior high and high school in the area of construction technology. And then I ultimately ended up in teacher education, focusing primarily on special populations and how they can fit into career and technical education. And then had an opportunity to create Max Knowledge with a very dynamic leader out in California. We put our heads together and created this company to provide online professional development for secondary, post-secondary, career and technical educators and administrators. That said, we've developed to date over 150 courses, primarily focused on the post-secondary level, or many of them are because we were working with that sector the most. We're now focusing and have started creating just a number of courses. I'd hesitate to get a number, but we probably have 2 or 3 dozen right now underway on the secondary level. And then I'm going to somewhere along the way, and not to get ahead of Michael, but get a plea for having even more courses and talk to you all about the generation of course content at some point through our meeting today.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm going to go into a share screen just to give you a sense of, although I'm heartened that you're all familiar with CTE Learn, to give you a little sense of what the catalog looks like. As you've heard us talk about, there's a set of free resources. We offer virtual conferences here, but really the heart and soul of what we're talking about today are these credit courses. The good news is that Max Knowledge has been very flexible in working with us as we've been identifying potential new topics for courses here. But as you've heard, and as you can see on your screen, that catalog has over 150 courses right now in these 4 general buckets. Those for CTE teachers, those for career services staff, leadership/administrators, but then also a special category to help teachers move and succeed in online teaching. I'm going to open up the CTE teacher tab here just so you can see what some of the categories look like today. The newest category that Max Knowledge put in place after we began this partnership is this Essentials for CTE Teachers. Currently, we've got 3 courses here, including the newest one added to the Max Knowledge and CTE Learn lineup, Teaching Secondary Students Affected by Trauma. The other categories here really are focused on important topics for all practitioners to, better understand what the teaching and learning environment is like. As we know, so many of our members and CT professionals have recently come from industry into the teaching classroom. And so they may not have had the advantage of understanding the development of effective teaching strategies and instructional theories and applications. And, how do you move to engage and retain those students? And then classroom management topics, as well as, what you do in modeling the teaching professionalism. And then, of course, today, very important, how do you work with and reach diverse needs of students and learners? A small catalog here with teaching with technology that complements really the category, the bucket I mentioned earlier of the online teaching. But then small course offerings here for teaching with practical applications and the subject-specific teaching strategies. And quite frankly, this last category, the subject-specific teaching strategies, to me personally, is the greatest opportunity we have as an association and as a network of professionals across the country to give back and share our expertise. If you will, think for a moment, just the number of divisions we have at ACTE, from ag ed to engineering to trade and industrial. If you think that the new teacher in any of those division areas is looking for, they need help and they want guidance that's specific to them. I mean, the other courses that I shared here are fundamental skills for teachers to have, but this category for subject-specific teaching, to me, is where we can perhaps make the biggest dent as a group. So I wanted just to share this part of the catalog. I encourage you, if you haven't taken a look at what we have for leadership or for that online bucket I mentioned or career services, please do so. And I'm not offering for Gary, but he's been very good. If any of you have not seen an actual course, then Gary, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could work with us and get a demo access to a course for everyone. So I'm going to open up one of these courses just to give you, so we're all on the same page, and give you an idea of what the components are. And so as I log in and am entered into the system, I'm going to be greeted with my login information and some basic information that the course authors provide that talk about what the requirements are, sort of a syllabus, if you will, the learning objectives for that particular course. And then some basic templated information on the structure and any specific guidelines you might have. You get into the heart of this here. The courses are broken down typically into 4 modules. And so you can see you've got developing, becoming a professional, classroom and laboratory organizational, engaging students, and in this case, a 5th category, creating a positive learning environment. So each one of these modules take between, Gary, if I say anything wrong, weigh in, but about 45 to 60 minutes for a participant to complete. Does that sound about right, Gary?
That's correct. It depends on, yes. The short answer is that's correct. Some of it may depend. You may find an area of interest. You may want to spend a little more time or check some more of the references out. And that opportunity is provided you as well through the structure of the course.
Yeah, it's versatile, and as Gary points out, there's additional readings, and there's links to what we call open educational resources, videos, text materials, applets, things that are woven throughout that the team at Max Knowledge produces. So I'm going to click into the first module, into the first lesson here. You're going to see, hopefully on my screen, basic layout and design. The information is very sleekly presented. So you'll see, this is the first page of the first module talking about, how you develop an understanding. There's a lot of interactivity in here that I, as a participant, can go through. And, if I go back here, I'm also introduced to a short video, open source video.
Be ready to take on the real world, right? So what's the secret? Say hello to CTE. CTE is Career Technical Education. Maybe you've never.
So the other components that are here are have identified resources to learn more. And then as I keep clicking through, you'll see that there are a number of readings associated. There's interactive app components here. This is a document that we created that you can get more information, click on, move through. And then ultimately you're going to come to what Max Knowledge has created, the things they call knowledge bites. And these are little short questions to make certain that you're following along and that you're awake and tracking. And so you can see here, you just keep coming into various different parts of content that has been laid out by the course author. Ultimately, each module does have these thinking breaks. And then if I were to click through, we're going to come to a quiz near the end of this module, and we're going to come to a reflection question that is connected to a community of practice or a professional learning community written around the subject matter, or in this case, it would be that basic developing understanding of CTE. So when you get to this point, this connects to the Career Ed Lounge, which is that PLC that exists on CTE Learn. And as Gary will tell you, and if any of you have gone into any of the courses, you can register for a free account right now at CTE Learn and sign up for any of those professional learning communities. And then you'll begin receiving daily digests of contributions or posts that have been made. And since the start of the pandemic, the online courses that I've been monitoring, I'm seeing on average, even today, about 100 responses coming. So there's a tremendous amount of activity. Actually, I was sharing with someone the other day that it's really, it started in April and it hasn't really subsided, that we've seen sort of this tidal wave of participation. Each module does contain an assessment. Participants are required to hit 70%. You can see that I got 80% on my first go through, so I had some room for improvement, but thankfully I made it through the assessment, 10 questions, and then I proceeded on to the second, third, fourth, and fifth modules here. So I hope that wasn't too much of a review for those of you who maybe have been in CTE Learn, but I wanted us all to get on the same page. Go ahead, Harry.
So quick question. Assessment at the end, does it produce a certificate with a CEU total hours? It's been a while since I've gone through that whole format.
No worries. Gary?
Yes, short answer also on that one. There's a couple of ways one can do that in terms of it can be done through the school. They complete it, the school gets notification and a CEU is granted or recorded to that individual's account, if you will, through your school, like Great Oaks, depending on your record keeping. The second part of that would be, yes, the certificate's available right at the end of the course for that individual if they need to show it to some other community in which they're involved. And then the other part, which we may get to, but I'll just mention it now, the potential for taking that to the next level is there for the course if they want some type of graduate or undergraduate credit. We have a relationship with the university, Central Missouri State University, so that they would get not only CEU, but also graduate credit based upon some additional work and working with a professor at that university.
Thank you, Gary. Ron asked a question in the chat, what is the pricing for CTE Learn? And so the way we've structured CTE Learn is we certainly promote CTE Learn, but our goal is to have individual state portals. And so I see our friend Doug Bush from Michigan is here. Michigan ACTE has its own CTE Learn portal. And so when you access the portal, you're given the opportunity to purchase individual keys or an institutional license. And so as you can see, those keys, essentially that's a cost per course, or a subscription key, which is unlimited access to the entire catalog. Now keep in mind, as ACTE members, there's a 10% discount off of these rack rates, and there's a discount code that's provided to each CTE state coordinator so that they can use that. How you pay for that, obviously, $129, which is the discounted price, is a lot for an individual teacher to pay. So in most cases, their institutions are subsidizing or paying for those costs. I'm not a Perkins expert. Steve, you might know more than me on that question. I think it's up to the individual state to determine what professional development dollars are appropriate from Perkins dollars. But I do know that we have several states that have applied for and written into their CARES relief funds the use of CTE Learn. Idaho, Georgia, several others have done what we would call a bulk or an institutional subscription key purchase. And so that plan, again, is more than, it's approximately double the cost per course, but that provides access to the entire catalog of those 150 courses for an entire year per person. Now keep in mind that you want to have each individual person have an account so that the system can track those, as Harry mentioned, the certifications and the CEUs per individual. And when those states have done large purchases or institutions have done purchases, Max Knowledge has been very good to negotiate discounted pricing for those bulk purchases. So they're flexible because they know in this time of need that they need to do their part. And so the pricing here, while it's set for the individual who might come in here, if there's some unique circumstances, they just simply need to approach either us or Max Knowledge directly, and we could put you in touch with them. I would just also mention that Michigan ACTE does a great job promoting their own portal. All the administrators in the state, I know Doug has spoken to them, he's spoken at various conferences, and so there's a lot of activity in there. And we see that as really important because Michigan ACTE is now presented front and center. Not that we don't want to be a part of it, but to us, it's more important that people in their own state see themselves reflected in this professional development environment. Okay, so Doug, I see you've weighed in. It does include CTE Learn, that's great. All right, let me go ahead and pause and just poll. Does anyone else have any question about courses that exist currently or how to access CTE Learn? All right, I'd like to go ahead and shift our conversation for the rest of the discussion, really about what we're looking for in creating courses. So now that you know a little bit more about the process, Gary, if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to ask you to just talk about how you would normally work with an author. And I mean, at this point, what we're trying to do is, based on the catalog that's there in place, is to augment the catalog with relevant and important topics that you have expertise in or your colleagues have expertise in. And we want to work with Max Knowledge in seeing those created so that we can build out the offerings and cover more topical areas that the community is in need of. Certainly right now we're in unusual times, so it might have some specific courses that might not have longer legs. At the same time, I mentioned earlier those subject-specific courses. As I saw the list of all your subject expertise go by, my wheels were spinning, thinking it'd be great to have a course, focusing on a new biz ed teacher coming in fresh out of industry, and how do they recognize and know all the different parts of the business education curriculum. What would your advice be, and how we would put that together into a course framework. And so after we identify interest, then Gary and I sometimes I'll join him and we'll do I'll call it an onboarding call. And that's an opportunity for Gary to walk through what the process that he uses to work with authors, and then the expectations and putting in place a teaming agreement that then spins out that commitment for a royalty payment to you based on future subscriptions to the course. Now, let me just make sure everyone knows that when I was sharing the CTE Learn course example with you earlier, being an author or a subject matter expert doesn't mean you need to know how to do web coding or put together great graphics and find interactive apps. That's what Max Knowledge does. What we're looking for in you is your expertise, that content knowledge, and then being able to articulate it into a templated form that Gary and his team have developed and use. And that way we can ensure that there's quality throughout all those different course offerings. So at this point, Gary, it'd be great if you wouldn't mind overviewing what that process is typically when people come to you and say, I'd be interested because I am a 10-year business education professional, and I know when I have a new colleague show up, I have to take them under my wing, and I've done this for years. How do you work with them, and what are you looking for?
Thank you, Michael. We, as Michael mentioned, like to have, once a person has been referred, we like to have an onboarding call. Oftentimes Michael is on that call as well, because we're looking at helping that prospective author have an understanding that this has the backing and support of ACTE, and that ACTE holds value to what's going to be offered there in CTE Learn. So during the phone call, I share with them kind of what we're looking for in authors. And I would say to all of you, as you think about becoming authors or referring authors, as Michael has said, we're looking for the content, or we could subject matter specialist, and we will work with you through our formatting to get the content put together. You will have to develop it. We have a template that we share with you that walks you through, so you're not spending time, or that prospective author is not spending time. What do they want? What form should it be in? We take care of that for you. The template comes to you. Secondly, then I serve in the supporting role. All courses come to me. I look at them, review them, send them back to the authors. And by review, I'm looking at adherence to our authoring guidelines, of which are pretty specific, so it makes it easy for you to follow them. Very simple. And then we keep shaping that course until we got it to where we're both mutually satisfied of where it's at. Then from there, it goes forward to production, where, as Michael has mentioned, the graphics are added. We're looking at really putting it together in a high impact, high interest format. And then it comes back to you as the prospective author one more time. And then at that point, we both look at it graphically, content-wise, get comfortable with it. And so then we say it's ready for launch. And that's always an exciting day, because the folks at ACTE, as well as myself, so-and-so's course has been launched today. That means it's live and ready to go. And you know, I just can't wait to see what the interest is going to be on that course, because we're looking for topics that are relevant. And so you're hoping to hit that mark. We've done that with our online instructional courses, for example. Michael mentioned the working with secondary students with trauma. We have a course that will be launched in the next few weeks that deals with suicide prevention in secondary students, because that's an emerging need area. I found a teacher that is really good there in Southern Missouri, and she has had great success. She put that course together for us. We polished it. It got it ready to deliver. Now, also, we provide you with, well, let me back up and say, you retain full rights, or the author retains full rights to all content. All we ask is that you provide us the opportunity to package it. So you're not getting, no author is giving up any of their original content. One. Two, then of course there is a royalty that is paid based upon the subscription, and that's in the amount of 10% to the author for the number of subscriptions or course enrollments. It takes about, if the person stays with it, it's about a 3 to 4 month process of getting that course developed, written and developed. We like to turn a course around after it's submitted to us in the graphic and production department, about 30 days later, having it available online or ready for launch.
Now, Gary, let me just stop you for a second, because several of the authors that we've worked with have moved certainly much more expeditiously in working with you, because they had a content store of assets already available, presentations that they had made, resources they had collected. I know Sandy, I think, put together her first course in about a week
Right.
because you know, she was really motivated. The tough part, I mean, the way I've been describing it to others is Max Knowledge is looking for the expertise who has maybe about a 10,000 word you know, narrative description and assets, and you know, anything else that they want to throw in, you know, with the kitchen sink. And then the tough part is taking those 10,000 words and sort of putting them into the right place where your template exists, and then doing things like maybe coming up with those quiz questions. They might not have thought of that before, so they might go back and forth with you and really couch you more as that guide on the side, and working with them as they progress through that process. Because of all the authors that I've spoken to who've developed courses up till now, they've all commented on what a great experience it has been, and that none of them have indicated you're not judging their content, you're really just helping them improve its fit into the format. Well
said. That's the goal that I have in working with them, is, especially as you phrased it, the guide on the side. And the other thing, the writing process can be greatly expedited by the fact of you have the resources, as opposed to trying to create original content in a particular area. And so then that calendar, by the way, I never set deadlines for any authors. That's strictly up to them. The point is, once we set the calendar, we're going to stay with that calendar, because I am asking for a place in our queue for production. So we need to know how to bring on our graphic artists, et cetera, and, you know, how to determine their workload. So as a result, if you have some spare time, a month, and want to knock out a course, or 2 weeks and you have a lot of material already, that's fine. And we will then expedite it, get it to launch, because we can do that. We have that capability. So it is based on your work schedule, your content base of information, and then how hard you want to work toward getting that course out. A lot of people, I suggest you have life, you also have a professional career. So target your writing to where it doesn't overwhelm you, and never think that we're the ones pushing the calendar. It is really your calendar for successful completion of the course. Yeah, so we're going to go back to some questions in a moment, but before we do, Gary, so that camera that I sent to you last week that we set up outside your house, I just wanted to give you a heads up. The construction crew is out there. They've run into some issues on your house.
So you might want to be forewarned, okay?
That's it. And we're just almost got the roofing. We're maybe going to do windows, but we won't get to them until spring.
All right, I pull your leg. All right, so why don't we go ahead and just see if there are some questions at this point in course authoring as a process. You know, the last part of today's discussion, we'd like to maybe brainstorm with any of you who have questions about specific subject matter areas, what might constitute to be really good courses. General questions. Good to see everybody. Hi, John. Hi, Tori. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, I have a question. So I am the program manager at UCF for the CTE programs, teaching teachers, and so I have a lot of content and knowledge in these areas. All my degrees are in CTE, so I have a lot of content. I was thinking about one of my business ed courses I teach, and I'm going to redevelop that class in the spring. So I don't have really, my question is there a time frame that you want these things done? Because I could probably put something together in the summer after my redevelopment of that course, because I'm thinking globalization in a business education course would be interesting.
I do too. I think that'd be an awesome course. And the shorter answer to you is no, there's no time frame. We are in this for the long haul. Professional development needs for CTE practitioners is not going to go away. Since April, usage and participation in CTE Learn has skyrocketed. I usually like to boast that we had about 1,200 users up through the 1st of April. Since then, we've gained over 7,000 users who've taken one or more courses in CTE Learn. Now, granted, we had a special offer right when the pandemic first hit on several of those courses that serve to help teachers transition to online. I mean, those were hugely popular for obvious reasons, but you know, the usage has continued to grow. As I mentioned, several of those states have come online with all of their teachers. So no, Lisa, we'd love to have a course on globalization and business education, and starting on it next summer. And I know Gary had just stepped away probably to push on the other side of his house. But I know he'd love to start working with you next summer.
Yeah, I mean, most of my classes are, you know, I could put them in any type of career cluster because, you know, I cover them all. But so I'm wondering if I should look at, you know, subject matter areas or the teacher areas. So I don't know which one would be best. And also, did I miss what's the pay scale on that? How do you get paid?
Sure. Gary, go ahead.
Okay, well, it's based on a 10% royalty for every subscription. So for every course sold, 10% goes to the author. And so what we're doing is, as educators, you're taking in a sense of risk, which I think is kind of fun. Am I writing a course that's going to appeal to a lot of people? If I am, maybe a lot of subscriptions will come in. If not, maybe I missed the mark and I need to write another course. But the idea is you write this course, and then based upon subscription, that's what your royalty will determine. It's like being a book author.
Right.
That's one. And then two, right now, the earlier question, if I can answer that one, was I'm really looking at what's really needed a lot are discipline area course content. That would be that new, use Michael's example, that new business teacher, some strategies that he or she could use basically online or blended or student management. Now I realize 90%, or I'm making a number up here, but 80-90% of good teaching is good teaching. We use the same strategies. We know that. But what we found is with our teachers, they like it packaged for their disciplinary, culinary arts, nursing, health occupations, and I'm okay with that. But so if we can get those authors, because each person's going to have a little bit of a different strategy for how they come at in a family and consumer science class versus the ag class, that's okay, because if that crossover, you get twice as much information. So it's not a duplication of content, It's just a delivery because we're delivering your personality, your expertise through that course. And that to me is critical.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, Lisa. I've had a few other questions pop in. Gary, John did mention that duct tape might be a good solution for the roofing issue there.
I think we're well past that. So
Tori was asking me, there isn't a category or an emphasis on pathway related courseware or programming. Is there a reason why we haven't developed courses on developing pathways and pathway, content, or is that yet to be created?
that's yet to be created. That's a need we have. We've been at this just about 18 months. And so there's a lot of need areas, and two things happen. One is we need the course content, as we've been talking about, but also we need your ideas and your vision about what categories we should be developing courses, such as pathways. So a very good question there, and that's the reason. We got the authors, we'll have the category.
Yeah, and to that end, I so appreciate all of you joining us today. But I'm hoping that even if you're not interested, I mean, let's face it, we're busy people, and there's a lot going on right now, particularly. But if you have a colleague, someone who you know and respect based on their knowledge and expertise, I hope that you refer them off to Gary or myself, because we want them to be a part of the community as well.
Yes.
Jody asked a question, really good. Are we requiring course authors to be ACT members? And the answer is no, we're not. But I do know that when authors approach us, if they're not an ACT member, we're going to ask Gary just to, pay particular attention and give precedent to those who are part of our family. So while we're not requiring it right now, it certainly has a precedent. So. And Lisa was asking if we're recording this. Dominique is here with us. Dominique, do you post these videos of these discussions?
Yes, so all of our virtual discussions are recorded, and we post them on our ACTE website, and I will be sending the link out once we get that up.
And Lisa's question had a second part to that I wanted to emphasize, and that is that she wanted to share this type of information with her adjunct instructors, which is a great way to involve your community. And plus, if you strike a deal with them, make sure you get a finder's fee of getting them the course royalties, right? All right. Any other questions right now? Well, if you think of them, please either use the chat window or just jump in. In our final minutes, I want to go back to the first part of our conversation. Tori surfaced one observation about the content that's currently in the catalog, having an area that it doesn't have, it hasn't been surfaced yet around pathways. But thinking, and Lisa's example about globalization in a business education program, a wonderful idea. I'd like to ask for you just to think for a moment if you have heard of a topic or you've seen a need, or you yourself are personally interested in a subject area that could perhaps be a course that you believe others would be similarly interested in. So just think about that for a moment. And then if you wouldn't mind, open up that chat window again. And if you could share what you think would be a great course to see available on CTE Learn, and including if there's a course maybe that you don't have expertise in, but you think would be helpful to you. What would be most relevant and specific for you? So I'll let you ponder on that for just a moment. And Gary, did you have anything further to say about course development?
Am I okay? I'm trying to see.
We hear you.
Got sound? I'm
Yep.
on. One of the things we try to be also is contemporary in some of our courses. We want them to have a long shelf life, but for example, something that's really gained a lot of attention are professional learning communities, because they were meeting on site, but of course, the new normal says that you don't get a chance to exchange with your colleagues like you used to through your PLC. Well, we have a course that is written, and we're in final stages of review on how to do and get value from professional learning communities online. So this will live after the pandemic, but it will be contemporary now, and that's why we're trying to bring it out so quickly. So that's one way of creating courses that have an immediate need, but will have a longer life. And the other thing is to support what's been said about recruiting authors. Many times that teacher down the hall from you, as you know, is a dynamic teacher, but don't think they have anything to share. And we both know they do. That's the teacher we're looking for. I mentioned the teacher that's doing the thing on suicide. This person is fantastic in her knowledge base, but it took some encouragement to say, I have a message to share, because you become very provincial very quickly. And so it's okay, because we will work with them. Just we need their names and contact as well as with you all.
Fantastic. I see we're getting some really great ideas, and I want to thank you all for, if you're still pondering on them, to please come back in here and share with us. You know, I didn't see anyone representative of health sciences, but I do think that that's going to be an important part of the catalog that we're going to want to engage with. And so if any of your programs connect with the health science education, I hope that you might share this opportunity with them. Likewise, the whole arena around logistics and transportation, as we know throughout the pandemic, that's been, you know, Amazon's hiring, 200 quadrillion people. So, you know, how do we prepare that they're going to be skilled in those right fields? These are really great suggestions. I appreciate them. You know, we've got just a few minutes remaining in time today. I hope this is of value to you. You know, whether or not we can encourage you and entice you to become an author, hope that you're as excited as we are about the commitment that's been made to bring CTE Learn out to our state associations and out to our members and the CTE community writ large. We, as I said, are in this for the long haul, because we know one of the most important contributions that we can make is to help grow the field and the professionalism. And it's because of you and your involvement in Educators in Action and your involvement in this organization that we're able to bring a resource like this forward. And so it gives me a lot of pride knowing that I have an opportunity to get to work with and observe and see the great work that you're doing in your classrooms or your institutions and, you know, for the country. So what other questions might you have for Dr. Mears or myself? Or, you know, I invite you to keep leaning over and tapping on the keyboard. Doug Bush, you've got your camera on, so I'm going to pick on you. You haven't put anything in here yet. I'm going to tell you to get those fingers on those keys and give us a suggestion for a course. But until then, any questions? Doug, I publicly shamed you. Are you not going to start typing? He's a good friend, so. Well, not hearing any questions, I don't want to take up more of your time this afternoon. Dominique, I'll turn it back over to you for any final words, but thank you all. I appreciate all that you do and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you all, I appreciate it. Please send those referrals. Love hearing from you.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael and Dr. Mears. We really appreciate you taking the time to present and give us all this great information on CTE Learn. This is just another reminder to participate in our blog, and don't forget to join us for our next call on October 9th. Thank you, everybody.